The envelope was thin, but it carried the weight of something far heavier. Daniel Reeves stood at the edge of his driveway, staring at the official seal of the Homeowners Association, printed neatly on the upper corner. The suburban street around him was quiet. Lawns trimmed, sprinklers ticking, curtains drawn in the late afternoon heat. It should have felt ordinary, but something about the letter felt like a warning. Inside, a single page waited. Notice of violation. Mailbox paint does not comply with approved shade. Fine, $100 per day, until corrected. Daniel blinked twice, convinced he had misread. The mailbox? He had repainted it only last month. Slate grey, chosen carefully to match the shutters. It wasn't garish, it wasn't sloppy, it was neat, respectable. He walked back inside, clutching the paper like evidence from a crime scene. His wife, Marissa, was at the kitchen counter, chopping onions for dinner. "Another bill?" she asked, without looking up. Daniel laid the letter down. "A fine. From the HOA, they're charging us $100 a day." Marissa frowned. "For what?" "The color of the mailbox." She laughed at first, then stopped when she saw the seriousness in his eyes. "You're joking?" "I wish I was." His voice was tight, clipped. Marissa wiped her hands on a towel, picking up the letter. "Dan, it's ridiculous, but maybe just repaint it?" "It's not worth the fight." Her casual suggestion stung. Daniel felt something twist in his chest, pride, indignation, maybe both. "It's our house." "Our mailbox. They can't dictate everything." The silence that followed was heavy. Outside, a dog barked in the distance, and Daniel thought about the street, how perfect it always looked, how quiet everyone stayed. He wondered who had reported him, which neighbor had whispered into the HOA's ear. That night, the letter sat on his nightstand, its words pressing into his mind like a bruise that wouldn't fade. He told himself it was a mistake, a clerical error. But deep down, Daniel sensed something else. This wasn't about paint. It was about control. And control, once taken, was rarely given back. The next HOA meeting was held in the recreation hall, a sterile room with folding chairs lined in uneven rows and a projector humming against a blank wall. Daniel sat stiffly, the fine notice folded in his pocket like a weapon he wasn't sure how to use. Marissa had refused to come. She said it was just a waste of time. At the front sat Linda Moore. She wasn't tall, but she carried herself like someone who believed she towered over the room. Her hair was sharp, platinum blonde pulled into a bun, her lipstick severe. Every neighbor's eyes darted to her before speaking, like children glancing at a teacher before answering. "Let's begin," she said crisply, tapping her papers into a neat stack. Her gaze swept across the room and landed on Daniel. "Mr. Reeves, I trust you've received notice about your mailbox violation?" The words cut through the air, deliberate, public. Daniel cleared his throat. "Yes. And I'd like to ask, what's the problem exactly? The shade is grey. Respectable. Neat. I don't see how it violates anything." Linda smiled, the kind of smile meant to belittle. "The approved color is charcoal dusk. Yours is closer to slate. It's in the bylaws." A low murmur passed through the audience. "That's absurd," Daniel shot back. "No one can even tell the difference unless they're holding a paint swatch under sunlight." "Rules exist for a reason," Linda said, her tone cool and final. "Without them, standards collapse. Do you want this neighborhood looking like a junkyard?" Daniel's fists clenched at his sides. "You're not protecting standards. You're using rules to control people." The silence that followed was suffocating. A man in the back coughed. A woman glanced at Linda nervously, then lowered her gaze. Linda's eyes narrowed, and she scribbled something on her pad. The fines stand until corrected. Non-compliance can result in lien placement. Consider that carefully. When the meeting adjourned, Daniel walked out alone, the night air pressing heavy against his chest. He could feel the stares of his neighbours, some sympathetic, others calculating. Whispers followed him down the sidewalk, fragments of rumour about who might be next, and who secretly admired Linda's cruelty. At home, Marissa barely looked at him when he came in. The mailbox fine was now $500. By week's end, it would double. And with each notice, Daniel felt not only his finances slipping, but his marriage too. The foreclosure threat burned in Daniel's mind like a brand. He stopped seeing the world the way he used to, lawns, houses, and neighbours blurred into background noise. All that mattered were the papers spread across the dining table. Linda Moore had left a trail, and he was determined to follow it. Stacks of HOA bylaws sat open, their language dense, riddled with contradictions. Daniel highlighted clauses until the pages bled yellow and pink. He found rule changes never voted on, budgets that didn't balance, and signatures that didn't match. The more he read, the less he slept, and the more he felt himself unravel. Late one night, Marissa padded into the room, arms folded against the chill. She stared at the chaos of papers. "Dan," she said softly, "this isn't healthy." He didn't look up. "I'm close." "She's been embezzling for years. It's all here." "You're chasing shadows," she replied, her voice sharp now. "Even if you're right, what's left of us when you're done?" "You don't eat. You don't talk to me. You don't see me anymore." Daniel lifted his eyes, dark and hollow. "You don't understand. If we lose this house, we lose everything." "She wins." Tears welled in her eyes, but she turned away before they fell. The sound of her footsteps up the stairs left a heavier silence than any argument. The next morning, another letter arrived, its tone more venomous than the last. Foreclosure proceedings imminent. Daniel read it once, then again, his pulse thundering in his ears. This was no longer a warning. It was a war. At the HOA office, Linda sat waiting, arms crossed, her smile cold and practiced. "Mr. Reeves, you're wasting your time." "The board will not bend to your tantrums." Daniel set a binder on her desk, the pages spilling like evidence at trial. "I know about the missing funds, the illegal bylaw changes. You've been running this place like your personal kingdom." For the briefest second, Linda's mask slipped. Anger, then calculation. "Careful, Daniel," she said, voice low. "People who make enemies of the board rarely stay here long." Daniel leaned closer, his whisper sharp as glass. "Neither do tyrants." He left her office shaking, but beneath the fear pulsed something hotter, steadier. Resolve. Linda had pushed him past the point of retreat, and now he was ready to strike back. The night of the HOA meeting arrived like a storm Daniel had been waiting to unleash. He carried the binder under his arm, its weight both terrifying and empowering. His hands trembled, not from fear anymore, but from anticipation. The room buzzed with low chatter until Linda Moore strode to the front, heels striking the floor like a gavel. She opened her folder, but Daniel rose before she could speak. "I have something the community needs to see," he said, his voice carrying more force than he expected. He placed the binder on the table, flipping pages for everyone to see. "For years, we've been paying for landscaping that doesn't exist. Security upgrades that never happened. Thousands of dollars missing year after year." Gasps rippled through the neighbors. Eyes darted to Linda, who stiffened in her chair. "That's a lie," she snapped. "This is slander." Daniel pointed to the signatures, the mismatched dates, the glaring holes in the records. This isn't slander. This is theft, and it's been buried under bogus fines like mine for anyone who dared to question you." A silence fell heavy and sharp. A man in the second row muttered, "My dues went up last year for this." Another neighbor whispered, "She's been stealing from us." Linda's face flushed crimson. For once, her control faltered. "You don't understand. These were necessary expenses. I've kept this neighborhood in line." "In line for your pocket," Daniel cut in. The meeting unraveled into chaos. Voices rose, neighbors demanded answers, and Linda's denials grew weaker with every page of evidence Daniel revealed. The board, cornered by the proof, had no choice but to concede. The fines were dropped. Linda's position collapsed under the weight of scandal. Weeks later, a legal settlement delivered Daniel $10,000, money that should have tasted like victory. But when he stood outside his house, check in hand, the street felt empty, sterile. The mailbox stood the same slate grey as before, untouched. Marissa watched from the window, her expression unreadable. Justice had been served, yet the silence between them lingered, deeper than any wound. As Linda left the neighborhood in disgrace, Daniel realized revenge had given him truth, but not peace.